Hello, welcome, good afternoon to everybody. We are very happy today to have you here with us for this seventh meeting of Scena, ITI Meets the World. And today ITI will meet United Kingdom with a very valuable panel of artists. Very happy and thankful to meet the UK Centre of ITI and its co-director Stefania Bochicchio. Before giving the floor to the guests from United Kingdom, I would like to give the floor to Director General of ITI, Tobias Biancone, for a welcome speech and an introduction to this meeting. Thank you, Tobias.
Okay, I make it short because I like to listen what the UK members tell me, so I don't want to speak long. I just want to start with that I admire the perseverance of the Italian Centre of Roberta and Fabio and Simonetta and all the team to pull this through from A to Z. And it gave me beautiful and interesting insight of what is going on with other centers, with other regions, and it was really enriching for me. So for now, I welcome the UK members. I hope that Nick Odd is joining us a little bit later, and I listen.
Thank you very much, Tobias, and it's always important to make initiatives within the frame of ITI, because this can enable us to meet artists and colleagues from all over the world that are making very big efforts in these times of pandemic. This initiative Scena is made within the project Genius Loci that is supported by the Creative Europe program. So now I'm very pleased, very pleased to give the floor to Stefania Bochicchio, co-director of ITI UK, that will present and introduce the distinguished guests of today, and hopefully the other co-director of ITI UK, Nico, will reach us later. Thank you, Stefania, please.
There you go. I can now speak. Well, thank you first and foremost to the Italian Centre of ITI for having this fantastic idea and for carrying it through. Thank you, Tobias, for being with us. We're very much looking forward to showing you a tiny bit of what the UK Centre can offer. I'm going to take a leaf from Tobias. I'm going to be very short in my introduction. All I wanted to say right at the beginning, before we start showing videos and the live participation of our artists, is that beyond the B word, Brexit, because we are all artists and practitioners, we know that we live and survive on collaborations that know no boundaries, they know no countries. So I would like to stress, if that is needed in any shape or form, that we want to collaborate with other centres, we want to collaborate with other artists, and as the UK Centre, we will do our best to facilitate this, to put in contact artists from other countries, and to find a way forward that may rely on something that we've been doing before, but it might require actually finding new ways to go about it. As creatives, we should take this as a challenge, and I hope we're all going to thrive in the future. And these are not just words, I really believe in this. So 3 companies could not be with us but they very kindly sent their videos. So we're going to have in video the Badak Theatre Company, Paula B. Stanek, a fantastic playwright, and the James Wilton Dance Company. With us, we have Emily Cardin, who's a fantastic actor and writer. From PsycheDelight, we're having artistic director and founding Sophie Besse, and a participant and actor, Rob Landi. And then we're having with us J.D. Henshaw, who's a playwright and producer, and is also the owner and manager of Sweet Venues in Dundee, Scotland, the Edinburgh Fringe, and in Brighton all year round. So if Simonetta could please show the first video, which is Badak Theatre Company.
Stop it. Born from sickness, spreading sickness, a disease, a fucking disease, a fucking disease. Yes, I am a fucking disease. Because of your hatred, because of your fucking hatred. He's right, he's fucking right. I'm an animal, a dirty fucking animal, a dirty fucking animal. Am I here? Am I here? Tell me, am I here? Am I? Is this real? Is it? Is it what I hear, what I see? Is it real? Is it? Tell me, is it real? Is it fucking real? Tell me.
Remember them, our two beautiful boys in our cottage, in our village, and laughter, lots of laughter. Remember them, our dreams for the future. The men who do this, who cause this, who order this, where are they?
So Steve Lambert is very, very sorry that he cannot be with us today. What he would like to say is that he thrives on international collaborations. He has been taking his shows regularly abroad. They're very, very portable, if you know what I mean. And as you could see from the snippets, he really likes to use non-theatrical spaces as well. And because the way he writes relies so much on reiteration of words, he also feels that there is no language barrier. The physicality and the atmosphere really carries through. And he also would like to say that he welcomes collaborations. Steve's niche is very strong political theatre. So anybody who would be interested in his work or collaborating or devising together new work with him and who has a story to bring to him is very, very welcome to do so. So if Simonetta would like to show Paula B. Stanik's video, please.
People say I'm the life of the party because I tell a joke or two. Well, although I may be laughing loud and hearty, deep inside I'm blue. So take a good look at my face. You see that my smile seems out of place. And if you look closer, it's easy to trace the tracks of my tears. I need you.
I think his legend will just grow and grow and grow, and I think it's still growing now. I think that's why we're doing this play, and 50 years on, people are still celebrating him in America. I hope in another 50 years' time, people will be celebrating him everywhere because more people will know about him everywhere. Fred believed in people coming together, people of all types coming together. So it wasn't only about colour, it was about where you came from, how much, whether you were from a poor background as well. And he really, really believed in everyone coming together. And I think that's what's really important to things now, that everybody's experience matters and that we all join together. When I read about Fred Hampton, I thought he was absolutely incredible, and I thought I have to be involved in something that brings who he was and what his philosophies were to life. Who he was is still so relevant to now, and how he was is still so relevant to now. A lot of the things Fred spoke about are still going on. The fact that he had the courage and the passion to actually get up and try and do something about things, and the fact that he spoke about revolution and spoke beautifully about revolution is something that I think all young people should be interested in and should want to know more about. Live is just a different experience. It's just something that can really affect you, being in a room with a group of other people and seeing something unfold before you is just a very different experience from seeing it on film or reading about it in a book. And I just think what we've done with that live experience, I hope, will really, really reach people as well. His life story, all his philosophies, and on top of that, just some entertainment as well. So some fun and a lot of love.
So Paula would like me to say on her behalf that she's particularly interested in writing collaborations with artists from all backgrounds. So not only she can present her work, and of all the artists that we're putting forward today, we've got biographies and contacts that we can supply you with, but really they are very eager to work with somebody else. And this is the best that an artist can offer beyond ego, that we know that sometimes creeps in, but these people are really, really keen to collaborate, to bring what they have on the table and to take away something from the other companies, the other theatres, the other countries. So if Simonetta, please, would like to play James Wilton's dance video, please.
I don't know what I become, but I feel so good this time. From far off I hear you cry, floating softly, split in two, I'm flying high.
So James couldn't be with us today because they're in rehearsal. So good news for his new work. I've been following his career since it started 10 years ago, and he's only 33 now. What he would like to say is that most of his work can be performed either in theatrical spaces or in outdoor spaces. his company has been extensively touring abroad, and it would like to do so even more after COVID. So we thank the people who could not be with us, but who so very kindly sent videos. And we're now getting to the live part of our meeting. So the first video we're going to show is Emily Cardin's video. Please, Simonetta, if you like.
Determined to prove a villain. Is there a murderer here? No? Yes. I am. I am a villain. Dive thoughts down to my soul. Here Clarence comes. Brother, good day. It is required you do awake your faith. In truth, it started with the bees. Creatures that, by a rule in nature, teach the act of order to a peopled kingdom. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George! I will revenge my injuries. What a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? What is this quintessence of dust?
Art and the sharing of art transcends political boundaries. Whatever is happening in our countries, we can come together, transcend language, transcend politics, and we can come together and we share from our hearts, we share our art, and that's an incredible, magical, beautiful thing.
I have to say, when she began, I thought we were going to run out of time.
Yes.
We're not going to go to and she did, so yeah, credit to her. It was very well. Very well.
A great concept put together, wasn't it? Really interesting, and you did get drawn into everybody's stories.
All Shakespeare could be condensed in an hour.
Yes.
I think the interactive Hamlet is a wonderful reduction of everything coming down to relationships, and almost it's very similar to in the 19th century in the Midwest. They have teachers that would send partial scripts out to plays, and they would come and talk their way disseminating English language and literature to people. And it's actually not dissimilar to that where I'm from in the Midwest. So it's reduced down to relationships with people putting in their part just enough, and all the balances were very well held in it. You know. It was great, really great. I recommend seeing it, and you participate but not threatened, and you get a richness from her performance, which has to do a lot to the size of how she's managing it too. Really well done.
Graves, at my command, have waked their sleepers, oped, and let them forth
My, so potent art.
Simonetta, could I ask you to unmute Emily, please?
I've unmuted myself.
Oh, there you go.
I have that power. Be heard.
It's your superpower. So, Emily, to start with, could you please introduce yourself and really give us a flavor of what you do and what you would like to do in the future?
A flavor, it's theatre maker flavor. Yes, so my name's Emily Carding. I'm a gender fluid actor, theatre maker and writer based in the southeast on the coast. I specialise, as you may have noticed from the video, in Shakespeare. That's not all I do, but it is something that I have a speciality in. I have an MFA in staging Shakespeare from the University of Exeter, and straight out of that MFA, in collaboration with Kolbrun Björn Sigfusdottir, who is an Icelandic director that I met on that course, we made Richard III, a one-woman show, in a theatre residency in Reykjavik, and its premiere was in Prague. So from the very beginning, the nature of the work that we've made with Bright Theatre and other collaborations have been international, and that has always been the most rewarding part of this. It's been the most adventures that that I've had with this work, which has been extraordinary. As I said in the video, the heart connections in most unexpected places that you find yourself making through the mutual sharing of art. And unexpected in a sense, because my work is very much poor theatre, part conscious choice, part nobody's ever given me funding, so I'm determined to make art anyway. I believe that you can make beautiful, immersive work with simply an artist, a space, an audience, and an invitation. And that's the basis of Richard III, a one-woman show. It's the basis of Hamlet and Experience, which I work with JD, has helped me with a lot with producing with both Hamlet and Experience and Quintessence. The invitation, and you have, if the energy of that and the audience accept that, then they are in your world, regardless of whether you can afford a set or props or anything else. And that does make them eminently, as to steal Stefania's word that she used, portable. So both Richard III and Hamlet are obviously Shakespearean adaptations. Quintessence was originally a commission from London Science Museum, which is now ready to tour again and will be coming back to Brighton Fringe. There's an element of audience participation, which in Hamlet is very intimate, so it's not currently viable with COVID going on. I hope to return to that one day. Richard III, we're looking at ways that we can adapt that to be more COVID safe. So that will be available for touring, and as both performer and writer, or even just as somebody to bounce ideas around with. I'm always really interested to meld minds with new artists. It's always invigorating for everybody, and inspiring always to travel and meet new people.
Because I know that you performed your one-woman Richard III in Rome and in Verona, for instance, I wanted to ask you, because I know that all the words in Richard III are actually in the Shakespearean text. So there's no re-elaboration on your part of the original text. It's contracted, but it's not altered. Did you encounter any language barrier with your audiences when you performed it outside the UK?
Well, I mean, Rome and Verona, this was extraordinary, although I find that Italians tend to have some grasp of English. That was a mixed audience and went extraordinarily well. But I think probably the most surprising things, it's also been to St. Petersburg, it's been to Pakistan, you know, places that are culturally much more different and perhaps haven't really encountered the language so much before. There was no need for surtitles. I can't explain this magical thing that happened, perhaps because the nature of the shows that I make include the direct eye contact and a particular connection, direct connection, an immersive connection with the audience, that I somehow was able to take them with me on that journey. So perhaps they don't get every word, but they get the character, they get the story, and they get an emotional experience, which leaves this lasting connection, which has been really the gift of traveling with these shows. The extraordinary, surprising, and magical gift of being able to bring Shakespeare in its original English and somehow still make that connection. I feel very privileged to have been able to experience that with people.
Are you interested in running workshops in parallel with your work, if you take it aboard?
I have run workshops. Gosh, have I run any? I did run a workshop abroad. This is where I get that like travel blurredness of like, where was that? Pakistan. Which was one of the places I was slightly most concerned about culturally, because to have a female presenting person playing a male role, wearing the suit and doing all of this, I thought would be something there would be resistance to. And in fact, it was probably the biggest theatre I've played to with that show. And again, going back to the point of different spaces, it's actually most rarely been in theatres. It's often in castles and in all these amazing spaces. Like in Romania, it was in one of Vlad Dracula's strongholds, which is just amazing. But anyway, back to that. So yeah, so I'm very happy to run workshops, and as I know, Kolbrun Björk-Sigfusdottir, my collaborator, artistic director of Bright Theatre, is as well, looking at playing Shakespeare, adapting Shakespeare, or perhaps creating immersive theatre with nothing other than an actor. So any of these things I'd be very happy to run and look at with people, for sure.
And as a last question for this section, Emily, but I know you are interested in being part of a team of actors as well, other companies, so you would be pleased to be contacted for that as well.
Oh, it's always a joy to be part of a cast, be it part of an ensemble or to lead a company. I take great pleasure in working with other people when they let me, because it's a lonely life touring with a solo show, even if you're making these incredible connections with an audience and then they go away. And I just love that collaboration and joy of working with a cast and with a director to make something together. So yeah, that's always a treat whenever I get a chance, for sure.
Well, thank you. And if Simonetta would like to play PsycheDelight video now, please.
So I created PsycheDelight in 2011. It's a theatre company of Sanctuary. and I do what we call participatory theatre. I'm originally a psychotherapist and a theatre director and writer, and I like working with communities to give them a platform to express themselves and raise awareness about their difficulties, and I guess try to change and challenge the image that the people can have about them. So yeah, that's how it all started. Well, Borderline's project started completely accidentally, actually. 2015, I went to the Calais jungle with a friend of mine just to do volunteer work, to be honest, like cleaning the camps and preparing food and stuff. And I went back months after month, and one day there was the possibility to start running workshop there because there was a big tent where we could do that. So I did that for like another 8 months. Every month I would go back, and I made friends, of course. And at some point I just thought, you know, I would like to give them a place to be heard, because the problem with the Calais jungle is everybody was coming to take pictures, to do documentaries, to look at them a bit like in a zoo, really, and that people got really fed up with that. There was no place for them to be heard. I thought, okay, let's challenge that. Let's do a comedy. Let's make them fun and beautiful and witty, and use their music and dance talents. And so we decided to do a satire of the Calais jungle with some of the people I had met in Calais who had managed to cross, and with their friends and friend of friends. And so it was an ensemble of 14 people in the end, and I decided to include half of them European performers, because I thought, okay, the other problem, one is the negative image, but the other one is the difficulty once you are in the UK to meet local people, to make local friends and to improve your English. And I thought, okay, so let's try to do that, like an ensemble where people would meet. And so half refugees and half European people. We premiered at the Cockpit Theatre in London in November 2016. And originally it was meant to be just a one-off, but it was a wonderful surprise. We were able to tour within the UK at the South Bank Centre and North UK, different regions, but also internationally. We went to Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, and all the way to India, which was absolutely fantastic. And we even went to Shanghai, but unfortunately online because of COVID. But yeah, still a wonderful experience.
Saura! Saura! Saura!
Our new show is called Mohammed and Peter. This time it goes the other way around. It's Peter who goes to Sudan. It came from, Mohammed is Sudanese, and so with all the political situation and demonstration in Sudan.
Look! This is my house!
I realized that it's something we talk very rarely about, the fact that they miss their home country so much, and that it's really, really difficult to be far, actually. And I thought, okay, let's bring Sudan on stage, and let's have Peter doing the journey this time. So it's a duo, and it's just the two of them doing many different characters, including Mohammed's whole family. So yeah, it's a road trip through Sudan.
Baby shark, baby shark.
The Together workshop, the concept was born from Borderline, basically, and we started them straight after in November 2016, bringing diverse communities together, creating a space where people can meet and learn from each other and have fun together, because there's a lot of workshop for refugees, but actually there were at that time not a lot of places where they could meet local people. The idea is to give them a space where they can express themselves, run the workshop. It's called Together Workshop because it's not me running it. It's really like someone might teach, drawing or music or lead an Iranian dance. So it's really about sharing skills and fun together. We've been online for a year. We have 2 workshops a week, including one specifically for women.
Believe you me, a couple of years ago, if you are talking to me, I'll be like that. And I'm very grateful because it keeps my confidence open. And that is actually what I really want, making my voice to be heard.
For the future, we hope to continue to tour Borderline, of course, with the Together workshop, because we always run our workshop alongside our shows, and to put on Mohammed and Peter in London, but also to tour it abroad and hopefully in Africa. Actually, we would love that to bring the show back to Sudan, or at some point. That would be really nice.
Hello. So thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Rob, who was not there, but is part of the company. And thank you for including such an explanation in your video as well. Is there anything you would like to add, Sophie, at this point?
Not really. I mean, about that, we are obviously very, very keen to travel, and I guess that's the essence of our work, is to mix communities together. So for us, Italy has obviously a very special meaning when it comes also to the refugee community, and many of the people now in the UK went through Italy. We know that many are still there, and that it's a very important question in your country. So yes, that's definitely something. If the opportunity comes one day, we'd be very interested in workshop, but also in the show, and possibly including some people in the show, because that's how Borderline works. I think we've had maybe up to 30 participants probably in the show, because of course people leave and have different things happening, and each person comes with his story. That's what is, the skeleton stays the same, but for example, we had someone who was a kung fu master in his life, so we had a kung fu workshop in the Calais jungle in the show. But when he's not there, this scene doesn't exist. So it's I'm always very interested to include more people in it, even if it's for one or two performances, but so people have a chance to go on stage and tell their stories.
Thank you, Sophie. And now we come to JD, who hasn't got a video, but JD, if you would like to just give us a short introduction to who you are and what you do, and as a producer and manager of venues, what you're looking for.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I'm JD Henshaw, and I am the Artistic Director of Sweet Venues and Sweet Productions and Sweet Stream. Basically, if you can put the word sweet in front of something, I will try and get involved. But yes, we produce work in Edinburgh, Dundee and Brighton on a regular basis. And we also produce and make work around the world. We currently have some work that has been continuing to perform in New Zealand, of all places, throughout the pandemic, which has been quite helpful, with them having a slightly better approach to making things close down so that they could actually keep going. That was a bit of a joy. And so, yeah, we look for new writing, exciting work. We're very open to basically work that wants to be collaborative, work that is looking for a home. And we are very keen on being that home, whether that is obviously directly coming to one of our venues or being that extended family that helps support a show as it moves around the world and does the things that it needs to do.
Now, we were shortly discussing this before we went live. So forgive me, but I have to ask you. For foreign companies who want to come to the UK, what's the situation with visas and taxation after Brexit?
Visas after Brexit are a little messier than one would like. I think that's a safe way to phrase it. A lot of things in terms of year-round are not as different as they could have been. You would still need to, for taxation, look at your FEU8 forms, things like that, because obviously the tax regimes in each individual country, for instance, in the European Union, are still each country's individual tax regime. So that hasn't altered in any meaningful way. Visas have altered a little. I would advise anybody that is currently looking for touring that is outside of the large scale fringes to make sure they're in close contact, not only with their venue, but also any relevant embassy staff that might be helpful to them. Make sure that we're on top of that, because these things are quite fluid and they're changing rapidly. My other big one to think about actually is not necessarily about visas and tax, but when you are trying to bring objects into the country. Or of course, indeed, if you're looking at this and thinking about moving from the UK out into Europe, there are different forms and export duties that are now sitting on simply moving your props or your instruments around. And that again is all a lot of stuff that we need to look at on an individual where you're going touring basis. And that is frustrating and increasingly expensive, and obviously is why there are a great many campaigns at the moment ongoing in an effort to try and get us back to some sort of EU visa-free situation. Will we get to that? Well, I think that probably depends on an election, but we'll see where we get to as far as we can. It's more difficult than it should be now.
So how many years now have you had venues at the Edinburgh Fringe?
Oh, the glib answer is too many, isn't it? I've been doing venues at Edinburgh Fringe now for over a decade. So, and I've been making work for 2 decades. So that happened. Time moved in a linear manner, and I just got older as I kept doing it. I didn't realize. So yeah, we've been working in fringe theatre for 20 years and directly producing other artists at a venue level, as I say, for over a decade, and producing artists for touring around the UK and internationally, probably for about the last 8 years.
So I know that this is the question that doesn't have a firm answer, but how is this year's Edinburgh Fringe shaping up? And I know today, the 6th of May, we don't know much, but is there anything we know for sure at this stage?
What do we know for sure? Registration is open. And everything after that is a little more fudgy. It is a little more complicated, to be perfectly honest. Will be a digital offering for Edinburgh Fringe. They are still ironing out what that means. It's not entirely clear. Several venues have got digital platforms of their own, myself included. Those venues are considering their options on what would be the best to look after artists. And there is a will towards achieving some sort of live performance at Edinburgh Fringe. Again, the shape that will take is very vague at the moment, to be honest. We are still looking in Scotland at 2-meter distancing, which obviously makes indoor performance less tenable. The sites that can achieve that are considerably less in number than you would expect from the scale of Edinburgh Fringe in its normal state. And there is also discussion about potentially doing outdoor work, but obviously there's a lot of fringe productions that outdoor doesn't suit. So there's a lot of question marks,
So you got venues in Brighton all year round.
Yes.
And you decided to launch an online platform for theatrical performances as well. Can you tell us very quickly the challenges and the benefits of that?
In terms of the online element, challenges are producing work that is honest to its theatrical route and also engaging in this platform, in this realm. That is definitely difficult. It's not simply a matter of chucking a camera in front of something and it will look compelling. That's not how that works. And I think a lot of artists have spent the last year putting out work that has been learning that as it's gone. And I think that's a very interesting position to be in. The pros of it, well, you know, we've got work reaching audience members across the world in places that we wouldn't normally expect to be able to find. And we are able to have work that is not necessarily forever work, but can be more perpetual in that sense of you can tune in and watch that work at a time that's convenient to you, rather than at the time that we have said it will be available in a theatre. So that is an interesting place to be artistically, where you can offer an opportunity for an artist to engage with an audience in a very different set of terms than we're used to. But that obviously then has a challenge of marketing and how you get that message out. So wonderful pros, really interesting cons, and very young. It's very young, isn't it? It's just a little baby of how we make theatre. And obviously there are artists who've been making this sort of theatre for a long time and they're experienced in it. But in terms of us trying to look at it in a much, on the scale that we're on now, it's in its infancy. And that is exciting and challenging. And I'm sure when I started all this fringe nonsense, I had a lot more hair. And now we're here. So yeah, but do you know what? It's art. And if we're not challenging, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm. So Fabio and Roberta, I hope this has given an overall idea of the people who are present today. And if you have any questions, or if anybody from the audience has any questions that you want to ask our artists.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much. You make an amazing work and we are very grateful and pleased to know your beautiful work. Maybe we are online and we cannot feel the warmth, but there is indeed a lot of feeling and appreciation for your work. There are questions. I have a lot of questions, I suppose also Fabio, but at first I would like to read the questions coming from the audience that is following us on YouTube. The first one is for Sophie. What are the main difficulties that you face with your work with the refugees? For Sophie and Roberto. The mic, please.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'd say several. One was the language barrier, of course, as we had 6 different languages in the room. Luckily, some could translate a bit, and that's why doing clowning and physical theatre really helped, because very quickly, when the trust was built, which was the main work to be done, to be honest. Like for 2 weeks, we did games and eating together, and to really build the trust in the group. Then there's some kind of physical language that started to appear, and translation magically disappeared, which was really nice. And after that, for me as a director, and I guess as a social advocate of this kind of question, is making sure that everybody had a place to be heard. And so you have some people who talk very little, who don't speak English at all, or who are very shy. Or we had one performer who was in really big post-traumatic stress disorder. So for me, it's finding ways to help them bring their stories in the way they feel comfortable with, whether it will be dance or a silent scene or music. And so there's a lot of observing what's happening on stage, but also outside of stage, because actually these people really rarely talk with a lot of people in the room. It's more when they're having a cigarette with someone, suddenly I start hearing bits or things they like, and or when we have lunch. So I'm very, very observant of what's happening outside of the room. Like there's always on their phone, I'm like, oh, what are you doing on your phone? Oh, but there's this thing, what is this thing, you know? And then boom, putting this back in the story. And yeah, that would, I don't know how long I should, and I have plenty to say, of course, but I don't want to take the whole.
Yes, thank you, Sophie. And I have also a question. What's the relation with local communities, because indeed it's very important what you said, that you very much want to create relationships between the refugees and local people, young people. But are you also able to create some kind of reactions from the communities in the places where you work?
Well, for me, I realized that refugee communities were extremely isolated in the UK, and that, yes, there was no real platform or places for people to meet. There was a lot of fear, I think, from both sides, and misconceptions. So that's why we use this show and the Q&A. We have a Q&A after each show as an opportunity for people to communicate and to talk and share with the audience, and then run the workshop as an extra place to you came and see the show, you enjoyed it, come and join us on Sunday, it's free, everyone is welcome. So yeah, we're trying to convey this message because I strongly believe that, yeah, I mean, fear is what generates exclusion, racism, and we absolutely, once people meet each other and have fun, we realize that actually we have a lot in common, and suddenly it becomes a different story. People start to care, to make friends, and it's very important, I think, really, really important.
Also, if you know, to share your experience with the community of ITI, because there is a network of theater in conflict zones that also we work in this framework, because we have worked a lot in the conflict zones area all over the world. And there are a lot of experiences in Japan, in Colombia, all over the world. It's very important, I think, in this moment, especially, to share our different experiences with the refugees and also in the conflict zones.
Well, we did a 8 days together workshop in Mardin in Turkey, so near the Syrian border, and the aim, we were invited there to bring together Syrian, Turkish, Assyrian and Kurdish communities from 2 to 75 years old. So we had like 50 people coming for like 8 days, and yeah, that was wonderful experience, wonderful. I mean, I strongly believe, like, I'm a really strong advocate of bringing people together, so yeah, very important for us.
Thank you very much. Great job.
But say that obviously everybody's contacts will be available after this. So if anybody wants to ask further questions that may occur afterwards, they're welcome to send them to our artists.
Thank you.
Thank you. And question for Emily. How can you describe your work inside Shakespeare's plays? How did you enter inside them? What is the process? This coming from the audience. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Starting from a place of knowing the play very well, and then deciding what aspect of that play we're going to focus on. So, like, looking at the two main adaptations I've done with Bright Theatre. The first one was Richard III, a one-woman show. And so we just took the central character of Richard, and that became our focus, and his story, his through line, but also his relationship with the audience. And so that was our main focus. So then as you go through the text, what puts that central, what's clear, you know, and what's necessary, and strip everything else away. So that very much the process is of a stripping away of the unnecessary and unclear parts of the story. I think this may be partially why it can come across clearly beyond language barriers and beyond cultural barriers, because it's really taking breaking it down to its core, and then bringing the audience in it and finding any ways that we can bring the audience into it. So with Richard III, which was that first one that we made, we had a sort of an open studio process, because we knew we wanted the audience to play the other characters within it. In this case, they weren't allocated lines, but if they chose to, they could interact with me. And we really couldn't make that work without having people come in and experiment with us and play with us. And and mold it through, almost devising alongside our voluntary audience members. But it wasn't until the very, very first performance that we were completely sure we had something that would work, because it's so utterly dependent on the audience accepting that invitation. But the process was really one of stripping down and finding the absolute core of the part of that story that we decided to focus on. And then with that idea of audience immersion that we developed and found worked really well with Richard III, we then wanted to take that aspect with Hamlet, who has a very different relationship with the audience, and put the audience much more central, and their experience and their contribution, and trust the audience even more and give them more to do. So stripped that down even more, really, to really Hamlet's core soliloquies and his sharing with the audience, and then let myself as Hamlet, and let Hamlet be affected by what the audience brought to it, because that again is a very different place. So it's really place specific, each process, because Richard III, it's intrinsic in the text, his manipulation of the audience, of the observers, and of the other characters in the play. In this case, those two things are the same. With Hamlet, it's almost intrinsic, the way that he's affected by everything that's going on around him. He doesn't really directly affect the events of the play that much until the end, when everybody dies. So it's looking at what specifically makes that play, what's the core of it, and then making an adaptation that's specific to that. And collaborating with an audience, getting volunteer audience members in as part of that process is essential.
Thank you, Emily. But can the audience have a verbal interaction with you?
So in Richard III, a one-woman show, there's nothing specified for them to do, but the way that I play it, I'm talking to them and asking questions. They can either choose to say nothing, or they can choose to ad-lib with me. So then my responsibility is not only to keep the text and the story going, but to keep in character and to keep everything on track, but also give them that interaction. So there's a lot of ad-libbing involved in that show, which could end up being a lot of fun. And it would mean that every performance is unique, depending on what that audience, that group and individual energy brought to it. So you could have an audience that's just rapt and just wants to listen and hardly laughs and hardly does anything. You can have a bunch of people who've been out drinking and who want to play. But I did find that whatever happened, whatever the circumstances, people wanted to help make that story happen, which was always a delight. Whether it be through heckling in character or really being overly helpful and wanting to do Murders for Richard, that there would be shows where we'd end up having moral debates about how much money they would require to be paid to murder the princess in the tower, for instance, for me. So it would become a very different show each time. Then we took that and took some of the audience feedback from people who wanted to be told more of what they had permission to do, and maybe wanted to be given more to do, so they knew they could interact in that way with Hamlet and experience. And in that show, it became much more meta, in that I'm playing Hamlet as director to begin with, and greeting you, the audience, as if you're the players arriving at Elsinore, and I'm giving you the parts of the other characters who are the characters in the play. So my relatives, my friends, my enemies, giving you some advice before we actually go into the story of how to do that. You've got a cue script with very clear instructions and some lines, but within that, some creative freedom of how to interpret those scenes, to the extent that there are some scenes where I just stand back and watch them interpret what they've been given in the script. And I've been so moved by the contributions of people to that. And that process of going from Richard III, where it's very much led by me, and I'm keeping everything going, to Hamlet, where that happens to an extent, but to an extent I also have to trust them, that they want to help make that story together. again, a real privilege to witness. But yeah, so they get quite a lot to do in that show.
Thank you very much, Emily. Very strong and fascinating process of involvement with the people that watch the performance, that live the performance, better to say. Thank you so much. Now we welcome Nick Ode, the co-director of ITI UK, that could reach us. Hello, Nick.
Hi, everyone. Apologies. Looks like I missed some pretty interesting conversations.
Yes. Indeed.
Welcome.
Welcome. Nice to see you. There are other questions. I have a lot of questions also, but I leave the ground to the audience questions for all. So I would start from JD. How is the situation now in UK with the COVID? How did you face this pandemic situation? In part, you also answered to this question, but if you want to give further insights about your experience, JD, please. Thank you.
No, gladly. It's been very complicated, obviously. We were fortunate enough to be able to put some work on in October last year, which was, there was a Brighton Fringe last year, it happened late. So we managed to put up 30 shows in that period for Brighton Fringe and for Brighton Horror Fest. The challenges are, in some respects, actually quite obvious. You know, it's reduced capacities. It is that from a venue perspective, especially in a fringe context, you cannot be looking to put lots of shows on in one day. Everything has to just take a little bit more time and be a little bit more patient, and a lot of working on supporting your team, your artists, the audiences in having a successful and enjoyable time. Trying to, as far as you humanly can, make that process frictionless so that when an audience arrives, they know what's going on, you've given them lots of information, but they don't feel that they're being herded around and made to do things. It's about trying to make it a very mutually enjoyable experience, so that everybody is still having a theatre experience rather than consuming a show in a process that allows them to. And that's the biggest challenge, I think. We've done more cleaning than we've ever done in all our lives. We always cleaned up, but you clean up 3 times a day normally. Now you're cleaning between every show, and it's very strict, and you have to be. But in doing that, you're giving the audience confidence. You're giving the actors and the crew confidence. They know they're safe. They know that they've been looked after, and that is paramount. It's about restoring that level of confidence and trust, so that people can just sit back and enjoy themselves. And the audiences are wearing masks, but we had no complaints because, again, we made it very clear why we were doing that, and it was all about safety, and everybody was very comfortable with it. It was never an issue. Where we are now, to be honest, roughly the same place as we were in October, which is we've got 1 meter distancing, audiences will be wearing masks, we're doing lots of clean downs, we're asking people to be seated while they wait so that we've got them in an area that's neat and tidy and everything's looked after. It's actually quite straightforward. It just is about taking the time and the patience and smiling and making it a nice time for everyone, because this is happening and we're all experiencing it together. We don't necessarily experience it the same way, but we are in a shared moment in time. And it's just about making sure that everybody shares that together appropriately. It's a funny one, the actors have panics because, my God, everybody will be wearing masks. The audiences have panics because, my God, what will the performer think? We're all wearing, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh wait, we all know what this is. We've all arrived and we know what we're doing together. And actually, within seconds, that the mutual trust that exists between performer and audience happens very quickly, very naturally, and everybody just has an amazing time. And in some ways, and I hate to say it because it's going to sound perhaps a little controversial, these lower seating numbers and these little moments that we've had where we've managed to put theatre on, the audiences have been super appreciative. The performers have been super appreciative. It's been really connected and a really wonderful human moment because people have actually went, I value this. It's not just a commercial exchange. I buy a ticket, I watch a show. It's I engage, and I've missed the opportunity to watch art, talk about it afterwards, have those moments. And I will, as we, head towards whatever comes next, I dread, to be honest, the concept of going back to normal. I've got not much interest in going back. I look forward to what we can do moving forwards. That's what this has got to be about. It's about all of our tomorrows. And if we can find a way to really nail that engagement moment between artist and audience moving forwards, then in some respects, some of this hardship will have had some value. It resets people's attitude towards art and why they want it. And I think if we can get that positive, it's a thin silver lining, but it is a silver lining to some of these things. Not everything that comes out of this last year and a half has to be negative. And I'm very keen on that moving into the future.
Thank you very much, JD. Very important reflections about this mutual engagement of audience and artists. And to move forward, I think this is something even more necessary and even more felt as necessary, I think, in artistic communities and in people, audience community.
In these last meetings, one element that we have in common is connected with also, I completely agree with JD, and I think that there is another topic very important, is connected with the heritage of performing arts nowadays. What happened now, it's very important too. And also we have to relaunch some different opportunities, different perspectives on this. And it is the most important challenge perhaps for us, for our community. Okay, now
yes, Sophie and Roberto, you would like to say something about this, and then Emily, thank you, about how you are facing the COVID situation. And there is also another question, so I take the chance to make it now so that in the round you can answer. If there are collaborations among you.
So regarding the COVID question, we went online. Our workshop are now online twice a week. And regarding performances, we put on hold, to be honest. I didn't see how we could make that happen with 14 people, and it's just too much, too expensive, too complicated, and also some people were in quite vulnerable places. And so yes, we will wait until we can go back in the space together, hopefully soon. But the workshops are online, so that's the good thing. We can reach everywhere. We have some people who are in Syria coming, and people from Canada, so that's quite nice. So yeah, anyone can join.
That's very good. The connection, word connection through internet, indeed. Thank you, Sophie. Emily, would you like to say something on that? Thank you.
So in terms of the live interactive shows, that's been, it's felt, I really felt like I've been grieving for those, because I've found them so rewarding, and then to not be able to shake strangers' hands and hug strangers and all of this that was such a huge part of my work that I never thought I'd have to be so conscious of. So I've really missed that, but I've had an extraordinary time this last year making work online with people around the world, and I feel like I've made friendships, like found family level friendships with people I've never met in real life. There's been some extraordinary things, especially in the world of Shakespearean performance, happening online. Very quickly got involved in a company called The Show Must Go Online, which was founded by a chap called Rob Miles, who's a wonderful actor and theatre maker up in Glasgow. And he has a working class background, so he understands the importance of making Shakespeare and theatre accessible to everybody. And what he did over the last year, and I've been involved in 5 productions by this company so far, was put the complete works of Shakespeare online with an international and diverse group of performers, different cast each time, on YouTube for free for everybody, with a pre-show talk by an academic explaining an aspect of the play and a post-show discussion afterwards. And those are all still there available on YouTube for everybody. Now they've gone on to a Patreon run basis, so they can try and get funding together, and they're absolutely unfunded. So they're now funded by a Patreon, so they can pay people a little to be involved. But this is, so it's very, very accessible to everybody. Again, as JD was saying, it's one of those silver linings that you have to look for. For me, it's been an extraordinary silver lining. Those shows, I've also worked for a company in Texas that I never would have worked for otherwise, a company in New York that I probably wouldn't have got to work for otherwise, doing Shakespearean productions, working with lovely casts and making these friendships, which I hope will become real world collaboration. I mean, it's real, it's just distance, a very big distance. But I'm hoping to be in a room with these people at some point in the future. So it's been planting seeds. And I have a meeting next week actually with Kolbrun Bjort Sigfusdottir about whether we can take Richard III, and maybe there's stuff that we can do with it moving forward, that so I don't have to actually directly touch the audience, but we can still connect and still make that happen. But gosh, yeah, I've become very familiar with Zoom, which I'd never really heard of before. Over the last year, I feel like expert level Zoom theatre now. It's been a really extraordinary time. Also, I had time to finish my book. So I guess that was another silver lining. I wrote a book on the magical content of Shakespeare, which is out this summer, which has taken me years because I'd always been so busy traveling the world with shows. So yeah, there has been silver linings. It's been a difficult time. I'm a single parent as well, so that of a teenager. So it's been a challenging time for sure. But my goodness, if I haven't seized hold of those silver linings, and I'm eternally grateful for them.
Thank you very much for your brave work and for the energy that we keep in transforming the situation into good and into a positive vision of the future also. Now I would like to give the floor to Nick Ode also, and to hear Nick and Stefania about this, and then we go to the conclusions of our meeting with Tobias and Fabio. Please, Nick.
Well, sorry, I'm still trying to get my brain in order. Could I hand over to Stefania for a second, and then I'll then appear to be very intelligent after after she has raised the level of my brain at the moment. Apologies.
Well, I hope that what we had time to present today gave you an idea of the range of performers, of projects, of participants, of practitioners, of venues, of playwrights that we wanted to show you, just to show the diversity, and really there was almost no temptation to show you the big, sleek, plenty of money performances, because they take care of themselves, really. But everybody who we presented today is motivated first and foremost by the content and the context of what they're doing. So we hope that we were able to give you a first flavor, really, of what the ITI Centre of the UK ITI Centre is all about. As I said right at the beginning, do not think that we are imploding. We're actually sending out tendrils to the rest of the world. Nick?
Yeah, and actually perfectly said. I'm not being lazy when I said that Stefania sort of said it on behalf of our whole industry here. And again, as Stefania said, we have a very big theatre and performing arts and all the intersections thereof, and in the UK, as everyone knows. But I do think that, as Stefania said, the big sectors, the big companies have all taken care of themselves. Actually, they haven't actually taken care of themselves, but in some respects, and also they've not looked out for the rest of the industry. I think that what we've presented here, and thank you everyone for taking part, is the real heartbeat of our industry. The people who will be the ones, I think, as everything we've heard, are the people who will take our industry forward into whatever that is, as JD said. None of us know, but I think that with the energy, the skill, the talent, and also what I think everyone here has is the ability to share their knowledge, skills, and ability to work with other people as well, that really shows the positivity of being able to take whatever that next step is. So, we're all suffering, but I think that everyone is very, very positive, because we have the power, we have the knowledge, we have, all of it here, as we hope other countries do as well. But I think in the UK, we're very fortunate as well to have, well, everything that we've witnessed today. Thank you.
So, sorry, Sophie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, it came to my mind after, I think for us during COVID, what was particularly difficult was the impact on communities, refugee communities, because they don't have necessarily easy internet access. Some of them no computer data and all of that. So we organized home visits and provided data, but also because I think I only realized then, me not being able to travel back to France or to see my family, to hug my parents. They've been in this situation for 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, and to have to isolate themselves from the little, communities they built in the UK was extremely traumatic, because of course it's once again cutting the new bonds that you make. So it's true that for me, the situation this year was not so much about art, but about how can I keep these communities together and support them in whatever, a child arriving, someone moving house, because this is otherwise you collapse completely. Like, how can you keep the sense of a community despite lockdown and COVID? So yes, that, I guess, the two sides of the work, the art and the social, and I guess the social took like so much space this year. But hopefully art will come back.
Well, I think that links up actually quite nicely to something that JD said as well. So our contract has altered as well. It's not just us putting up a show and asking people to pay money for it. It's actually a rebuilding. In a way, it's going back to certain roots of being an integral part of a community and being able to offer something substantial and actually useful that contributes to the fabric of communities.
Yeah, again, the common word, spoken and unspoken, has been community, and we've looked at all of its different aspects. I think really important, and I think we all feel that, and I think that's a strength that will keep us, that will take us through to that next step.
And really, Fabio and Roberta, this was a fantastic initiative, because we're all talking about communities, but also the branching out. So giving a new definition to what communities are, And, you know we all have our little family, then we have an extended family, and we have a much bigger family as well. So we can, through this network, get in touch with each other. And for people who have solo work, or for people who present independent work, sometimes the danger is to feel that isolation. And it is nice to be able to offer a platform and a network that would help practitioners not to feel isolated, to reach out and find like-minded people that they can sound off or collaborate with. And to me, that is the most important thing we can do.
Thank you very much for these crucial reflections. I think we are really touching some crucial matters for the future of arts and of social life, indeed. And thank you so much to Nick and Stefania for organizing such a fantastic meeting, and to all the artists. Now I would like to give the word to Tobias Biancone, the Director General of ITI, for further reflections. Thank you, Tobias.
Thanks a lot. Like, it was absolutely interesting what you told about what you do, and to look at your performances, your interaction with refugees, your ideas about the future, and I think when you go through this long period of pandemic and all these online conferences and talks, etc., in the beginning they were always talking about the new normal, and I was thinking, oh my God, what are they talking about? I don't want the new normal. I don't want the normal now. So why should I have a new normal? Because as soon as it's a normal, I'm not interested. Like, if I go into a play where I can already from the beginning say, oh, now it's happening this, now that's that, because it's normal, I'm not interested. I'm interested in the future. And you showed me that you deal with what is happening today, and also with your comments about heritage and about how you work. You don't want to create a new normal from my viewpoint. You want to create something astonishing and something that catches the audience and something that inspires and that gives us hope. And then I think very positive aspect I can see in this talk and in this presentation. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot to each of you.
Thank you very much, Tobias. And now, please, Fabio, for final reflection.
Yes, of course, I want to thank you, everybody, and especially Stefania and Nick, but everybody was very interesting. Also, I haven't spoken a lot these days. It's not so usual, but I prefer sometimes to only to hear about your experience. Also, I was thinking an aspect that ITI communities has stressed many times. The right to theater is the right for the operators, for the artists, but also is the right for the audience too. This is very essential, and also something that can rebuild an idea of community. There is an Italian philosopher, very important, Giorgio Agamben, that has written a book that is The Community That Is Coming. That is not something fixed, it's something that has to be happen, something. And he talks about a dimension of the Hebrew tradition. Always there is a seat empty, a side. Also, we have lived this experience in the theater with one seat and no one. And also it's very strange, it's a connection, because everyone has to think that we have a seat in the heaven and also we have a seat in the hell. And the empty space is the space that we have left in another place. I think this is a dimension of the community that we are living, that we have to rebuild together. And also for this, I want to thank you, because another aspect very important is connected with the playwright actions in this period. I think that it's very important to discuss on this, because we have to redefine perhaps also the writing activities for theater in this new dimension that we are living. But also is another opportunity that we will discuss together. And I want to say one more again, this meeting, the most important things is also to create opportunity to share common projects for the future. And also is also the goal of ITI communities too. For this, I want to thank you and
thank you so
see
much.
you soon.
Thank you and keep strong.
Please, Tobias.
Oh, Tobias, please.
I would like to thank all of you, but I also would like to thank Roberta and Fabio and Simonetta and the team for Astragali of doing all these events, and this is the last event for now. So thank you very much to Italy, to Lecce, and so there will be new things coming. So not the normal, not the new normal. There will be new things.
Paranormal.
Thank you, Tobias. Thank you so much. Nice to see you and see you soon. Hopefully in Lecce.
Hopefully in Lecce, of course.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.